Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second session. So today, of course, we're going to be talking about configuring the user interfaces of the sales application, Dynamic 365 sales application. So yeah, it's exciting. Just bear with me while I lower the PowerPoint. Now, of course, we did in the very first session. We did a little bit of introduction into Dynamic 365. So we talked about what the application is as part of an ecosystem of business applications that Microsoft offers, um, including marketing, customer service, field service, project automation, and more. But obviously, as part of the customer engagement application, sales application stands in there, and what are the benefits of leveraging the sales application? Today, we're going to delve into the second part, or the second session, which is about configuring the user interface of the sales application. And of course, you still know that that's part of the 35 to 40% scoring as part of the exam. So if you feel comfortable with configuring the user interface, configuring the sales settings, configuring processes, configuring the sales visualizations, as well as the sales accelerator, and evaluating the sales licensing, which we touched on as well last week in the first session, then you are going to be essentially you already have the 40% of the exam content already covered and ready to to secure 40% mark. So again, we go to our learning guides. If you go and you type Google, it will bring you to this, and you search for MB20 study guide. I'll bring you to this URL here. And if you look at what we're going to be doing today in terms of configuring a user interface for the sales apps, we essentially going to be configuring the model-driven apps. We're going to be creating and configuring forms, as well as creating and configuring views. So yeah, let's get right into it. I've already gone through this as today's agenda, of course. Again, configuring model-driven application, creating configuring forms, and creating and configuring views. Now, before we delve into all of that stuff, let's just all get into the introduction. And we kind of talk about this before, but it's important to horn into this point as well, or horn into this point to be more precise. So Dynamic 365 sales helps salespersons. So if you're a salesperson or you are customizing a solution for sales people, then you know that the end game of a sales application or salesperson is that they want to be able to have a stronger customer relationship. They want to be able to be given the right tools that will enable them to engage with their customer and build stronger relationship that obviously results in money, the profit, the bottom line going up as a business. And so you want to be able to have as much insight as possible, as much information as possible, right? And this is what Dynamics 365 Sales offers you. It enables you to be able to configure this application to give you the best information that you need to make the right decision, the right conversation, send the right email, that sort of stuff. So, and what that happens, when that happens, then you'll find that you're able to accelerate your sales process because you're saying the right stuff, you're listening to the customer's needs, and you're taking into account their concerns and all of that stuff, right? And what this Dynamics 365 Sales apps also enables you to is to be able to track accounts on contact easily, right? So you don't have to manually create a unique identifier for those accounts and contacts. The system enables you to do that, but not just do that. It actually gives you the flexibility to create unique identifier for each contact. So if your company has a unique code, for example, for identifying your account or your case or your quotes or your invoices, then Dynamics 365 Sales enables you to do that. It does the same by allowing you to nurture leads. So from start to when you engage them to when they actually order your products and services. And it, of course, create effective sales collateral. It helps in managing marketing lists and campaigns. We're going to touch on those a little bit later on. And of course, it helps to monitor service cases associated with specific accounts and opportunities. Of course, if you're doing the marketing marketing application, then you know there's a lot more is being talked about there with regards to monitoring service cases associated with specific accounts and opportunities. So the sales solution for different businesses, every business will have a unique need. Okay. Dynamics 365, of course, offers different sales solutions or different sales applications. You have your sales hub app, right? And that's essentially built on the unified interface framework. What a unified interface framework is essentially a responsive web design principle. Is a web design principle that it's been essentially leveraged in all of the look in the look and feel of the Dynamics 365 forms, views, as well as the fact that it is mobile responsive, so it gives you this amazing interaction experience, and it's great for or any screen size really, devices or orientation. So that's one of the beauty of the Dynamics 365 Sales Hub app. And of course, it's optimized for not just desktop, but also mobile devices as well. And for you to be able to use this app, you need to have the Dynamics 365 Sales Enterprise Licensing Plan, the one we talked about in the first session. There's also the Sales Professional app, and this is obviously similar to the Sales Hub app, but this is a subset of it. So the subset of the the sales the Sales Hub app, and what it means, of course, that it has a subset of the Dynamics 365 Sales Enterprise solution, right? And you will need for you to use this app, you will need the Dynamics 365 Sales Professional licensing, right? Now, so what are the customization options that you have within the Dynamics 365 Sale, right? It's important to note that there are some out-of-the-box functionality that comes with Dynamics 365, and what that means, so out-of-the-box functionality just simply means functionality that comes as part of the solution, the Dynamics 365 solution, and the specific plan that you've or apps plan that you've opted for, right? What the application gives you is everything from being able to build and track those kind of relationship you have with your customer, all of the tables that you need, all of the views, which are just think of views as grid, where you could see a list of important attributes or columns in your table. And so these views can be leveraged in your forms. They can be leveraged in dashboards, and you get to see more where you can use these views. Each business is unique, as I mentioned previously, and so it's important that you learn to tailor this out-of-the-box functionality in such a way that works for your company. So, how do you? What are the options for configuration? You want to be able to configure how you track your data, right? You have business processes. You want to be able to modify some of the out-of-the-box business processes, or as well as you want to be able to change or add new ones, right? And also you have to think about how your forms look like to your salesperson. How do you want them to interact with your forms? What kind of views do you want them to see? And we'll talk a little bit more about views later on. So the key point to take out of this is that, you know, when you start to customize a solution, you have to be aware of what is customizable first before you delve into actually going ahead and customizing the solution. Okay, so of course we talked about the sales. We talked about the sales app, and we talked about the sales professional app. We're going to be focusing on the sales app, and also looking at how you can create a custom sales application for yourself. So if there's a need, if you wanted something unique, perhaps just for a certain subsection of your salesperson, salesperson in your organization, or salespeople in your organization, then you can actually create a custom application, right? So as I said before, the Dynamics 365 Sales Hub app is as part of the application that comes installed when you opt for your sales enterprise plan, and you install your sales application, and it comes with all the primary sales features, right? The app navigation and content can be customized according to the user it needs. So depending on which area of the application it allows you to customize it, you are able to customize those areas that enables you to. So the certain features, the certain functionalities, the certain components that you cannot customize because it doesn't allow you to customize it. Now, it's important to notice that when Microsoft updated Dynamics 365 Sales, it automatically reflects in the Dynamics Sales Hub app or any other Dynamics 365 Sales application, unless, of course, you've made a modification to prevent it. For example, if you're creating something that is custom within that same solution, then those type of things would not. So, for example, the point 4 there says custom forms and views created by the users do not receive automatic updates and must be manually managed manually. So if you're creating some unique field, custom field that's not part of the out-of-the-box fields or columns or components, then you would have to manually update that yourself. Right, it wouldn't obviously break anything because it's not associated with any Microsoft necessarily any sales components. Yes. Now, point 5 here says users can decide between using the Sales Hub app or creating a custom one. So if Sales Hub app, the level of customization that you want, you cannot get, then you can create your custom application, and you can use some of Sales Hub apps tables and other components within your solution, within that same custom app that you're building. And that custom app, when Microsoft updates its sales Dynamics 365 sales solution, the out-of-the-box functionality of the sales that you're using in your custom app will also be updated. But remember, anything that is custom that is not part of Microsoft out-of-the-box sales features will not be updated because It's not something that Microsoft created. You created it, right? Now, a custom app referencing the same forms and views as the sales op will reflect Microsoft updates, just like I've said before. Right. So Microsoft, of course, makes regular updates. So something that we I want you to be aware of. So don't be scared when all of a sudden you know a form look and feel changes, or it's a new field added to your solution, or a field has been renamed, all that kind of stuff. So if you're obviously monitoring Microsoft wave 1, wave 2 releases over the year, you'll be able to understand which part of the release you should be that's has happened and that you should be aware of. Fantastic. So let's move on to the next session, the next slide. Now, in customizing your Sales Hub app, you have to, I think I alluded to the fact that, the Sales Hub app is part of, it's essentially a model-driven application itself. We talked earlier on that is the app is built on the unified interface framework, which is responsive. And essentially, this is the same as the model-driven app. So the model-driven app is also built on it's the same thing. So in a sense, the Dynamics 365 Sales is of a type of a model-driven app. So the Sales Hub app is a model-driven application. Yes. Now, part of the components of the model-driven application that we'll be looking at configuring today is like a table, which defines a data structure, right? So creating, tables representing different data, right? So representing different data. So for example, a table for a contact will contain the first name, the last name, the email, perhaps the address, the contact number, and that sort of stuff, right? That's what a table represents. Now, columns represent each individual data attribute. So, for example, I just mentioned the contact. That would be the first name and the last name, and email address and that sort of stuff. That will be the custom. That would be the data attribute, right? Now, model-driven application also contains forms. Now, forms. Think of forms as what can be used to view your records, and you can use to edit them. Okay. And of course, I did mention about views earlier on. So, views are essentially, used to control data display. So how you display the data, and also you can filter what is displayed in the data as well as sort it. So it's important to remember that. And then, of course, part of the model-driven application component is the relationship. Now, you can have relationship between two different tables. For example, a contact can have an account. An account, just think of an account as for example, if you're a customer, if you're a mobile customer, you will have a unique account, and you also have a contact. So you are the contact. Your contact will contain your first name, last name, and an address, and all that kind of stuff. But you also have an account with the telephone company, or if you're using broadband, a broadband company, and that account has a unique account number. So, and you your account can have multiple contacts, right? So you can be the primary contact on that account, but you can also have a designated person who can speak on your behalf in relations to that particular account. So model-driven application components includes relationship where you can define a relationship between the accounts and the contacts. So one account can have multiple contacts. Of course, a model-driven application also contains business rules, and business rules are basically just logic and validations, right? So logic, when you want to, for example, implement a logic and validation, where you say, well, if this, for example, this record is, if this field, let's say a person says that they are, if someone puts their age and says that, oh, I'm below 18, then certain certain fields or certain requirements or fields would not no longer be visible. That sort of stuff. You can create business rules, and you don't need to write any fancy code or anything like that. It's just a drag and drop. It's click here, so it's user friendly and intuitive. Now, also part of the model-driven application is the workflows where you can create actual processes and cloud flows using Power Automate. So you can set up an automated process, a system that is asynchronous, which means waits for resources to become available. In other words, doesn't fire immediately. That event or that flow is being triggered. It's supposed to be triggered, but you can create predefined triggers for those particular cloud flows or processes, right? Also, model-driven application contains chat and dashboards, and that's straightforward. Chat is for visualizing your data. Same, and I did mention earlier on, excuse me, that you can leverage your views in your chats and your dashboard, right, for visualization purposes. And also, model-driven application contains navigation, so you want to be able to navigate from one section where the navigation. There's a session for let's say for customer care, so customer details. Perhaps it's a section for sales, session for quotes and things like that. So this is what you would see, right? And then of course there's also a security rule. I mean, if I just go back to navigation for a second, so all of the idea of the navigation, it helps you to navigate access to your data and all the different features and functionality that's available in the app. Okay, and we'll see how you can actually define your navigations and so on. Of course, security roles. We're talking about defining security roles. What does security roles definition of security means? It means you can define the level of access and privileges that a user essentially has over a table, for example, access to view a data, right? And as well as certain functionality that's available. So model-driven application also contains your business process flow. So you're able to set guided processes for users to follow. So if your business, for example, have a sales process, right? A process for developing and nurturing your lead, converting your lead into an opportunity and subsequently into sales and order, then you'll want to leverage those. And of course, the Dynamics 365 sales has its own out-of-the-box sales processes, which we'll be delving into at a later stage. Of course, the model-driven application contains plugins and custom code as well that can enable you to integrate your applications with external systems. But we will not be talking about creating plugins and custom code in the MB210, but it's worth knowing that this is the total package, total components. Many more, but a few more, but these are the key ones that this is the core components that we're gonna talk about. Now, remember that there are also licensing and role requirements. So like I said before, if you want to configure the Dynamics 365, you must meet the following license, i.e. you must have, you must have the Dynamics 365 Sales Premium, the Dynamics 365 Sales Enterprise, or the Dynamics 365 Sales Professional licensing. Of course, you can Google to find out more information about that. And of course, so like with Dynamics 365 Sales Enterprise, you need that, of course, to be able to customize, configure the Sales Hub application. Now, you also need a few roles, security roles, to grant you the access and the access, as well as the ability to configure the application. So you need a system administrator, you need a system customizer to be able to configure. Or you could create your own security roles as well and define what assets level that someone else who is a customizer is able to do to essentially to work with. Yeah. Now, we talked about the model-driven application, and we said that you know it's the sales application is a type of a model-driven application, and we talked about configuring it, and we did mention all the different components that's part of the sales application. And so a model-driven application is made of various components. We talked about that already. There are two types of components, which is the artifact and the table assets. Now, you can see on the picture on the right side, this is what we refer to as the sitemap, right? This is your sitemap, this is your application designer, your modern Power Apps app designer, and in there this shows you some of the components, all the components of your model-driven application, your sales model-driven application, for example. And on the right side, you see the artifacts and also the assets. So the artifacts entities, so where you model your data. You have your dashboard, you have your business processes, you have forms, views, charts, and dashboards. So you can see there is a global dashboard, which is this one here, and each entity has its own dashboard. So this dashboard here can be associated on a global level with any of the entity or any of the table, but the one that is local to the entity is only going to be associated with the entity. So if you go into the table, for example, which we'll do later on, and you try to create the entity, then you will find out that you would have the option to create a dashboard on the global level as well as creating dashboard on an entity or table level, right? So yes, the tables, the dashboards, the business processes are part of the artifact of an app, and the table assets consist of your forms, your views, your charts, your dashboards, and the like. Yeah. So the it's important to also note that after the tables are in place, then you can select each table and add the required table assets such as form. That means once you've created the tables, or once you've added your table here, or you've added your table in your from your make.power apps portal, you can essentially go ahead and start to add as many of the assets that you have, either an existing one or you create one from scratch. Right. So if you want to configure the Power Apps, you basically need to have an existing environment. We talked about what an environment is, but just for revision purposes, an environment, think of it as a as a tenant, where you can store all of your applications, your solutions. So you store your solutions, which contains all of your applications, right? And it helps you to manage. It's kind of, think of it as a designated environment for your organization. So each company may decide to have one environment for all their solutions, whereas some companies might, we want our own environment for sales, because we want a separation of concern. We don't want sales development work or customization work to interfere with our work. So we just have different environment to work with, right? So you need to select one environment, select environment, of course, where your sales application is in, and then you go and you can create new model-driven application. You can select an existing one for information about how you can create an app. You can just type on Google create or edit a model-driven application by using the app designer, right? So you can add or edit the sitemap. We've already seen the sitemap there, so you can add it, or you can edit. So essentially, you can create a new one, or you can edit the existing one, as well as so you can add additional components to your model-driven application. So when a dashboard or a business process is added to an app, the related tables are automatically added to the app. In other words, if you add a dashboard or a business process, automatically these additional bits are added as well. So when the table is added to an app, the tiles for its assets are automatically added as well. So if you add a table here, these assets are also automatically available for you to add, and you can toggle the ones that you want to add and the ones that you want to take out. And of course, there are two ways components can be added to the design on Canva. One is you can use the add button on the command bar, and the other is you can just use the tiles in the components tab. So you can see the add button up here, as well as you could just essentially use your tab as well in the components and just drag and drop. So let's just have a little demo. Okay, so model-driven application, the sales hub application. So the way you get there, of course, is you come and you say make.powerapps.com. Okay. That's right. Make.powerapps.com. You go to the solution, and you should now. You basically, what I talked about environment earlier on. I'm not in my sales try environment, so I need to go into the environment where my sales application is being installed, and I should see a bunch of applications here in the solution. So you can see there is a sales try app. Now it says here you cannot edit objects with managed solutions, and the solutions, if the managed property for the solution are set to allow customization, then you can edit them, right? So now, because this is obviously sales try and it's managed solution, I cannot actually edit any of the solution here. I can view them, I can look at them. So we talked about the model-driven application as being part of a has its component. We talked about the table. You can see the table there, right? If you go into the tables, you can see, say for example, you take the accounts, you can see it has its columns, it has forms, it has its views. It also has relationships. So if I look at the accounts, for example, you can see account relationship. Accounts will have. So now we don't have any visible relationship here, and this is solely because this is a try environment. So if I come out, okay, and I go to the apps, all my apps will still be here, and then I can see the sales hub app. So I click into that. Just wait for that to open up. Well, that's not where I want to go to, but yeah, so you can actually see all the different. This is a sales app that we were talking about earlier on. You can see it's got some navigations down here, right? And we talked about model-driven applications. One of the components of model-driven delivery applications is navigation. So this is a navigation. And we also talked about it containing business process flows. So what you see here is a lead. This is the lead to opportunity sales business process flow. So if your company has different process flows here, this is a lead. This is when you try to qualify the lead. You ask if there's an existing contact, if there is a budget, and so on and so forth. So it's a process. Once you capture all this and you're happy with it, you go to the next phase, and then that's the develop stage, which then requires you to confirm customers' need, propose. We're going to talk about this later on. We just think this is a business process flow. That's part of the components of the model-driven application, right? There's also a security role. So before you're able to view this application, you need to have a certain security role. So if I click on Sales Hub, and if I click on here, more option, you can see that I can actually manage security role for the application. So you can see here the list of people, the list of security roles that have access to the application. So if you come, you can select and then save, and those that are assigned here will now be able to, those users who have these security roles will be able to will be able to open the Sales Up app. Of course, you have admin administrator will be the one configuring that for yourself. And of course, we'll talk later about the sales team app. Essentially, the sales team app is for mostly read-only purposes. If you're not going to be doing any, any major creations, then you will go for the sales team member application and license, which is usually typically cheaper. Right. If I go back to my sales, if I go back my sales, and I essentially go and I have already created one sales. No. So I've created a test sales app. Right. So if I click into it, you can see that I have. I'm just waiting for that to load. I have 5 tables: the account, the activity, the contact, the order, and the payment. If I open up my account, you can see that I have created a custom account. This is a custom Twitter account. So if you want to create a new account, a new sales column, all you have to do is come up here, create a new column, and you fill all the informations there, right? So we're going to come back later into that. So just showing you the different components. You also notice that we've got a sitemap here, which we talked about as being part of the model-driven application, right? So what is a sitemap? A sitemap is what defines essentially your navigation. So here I'm defining a group, an area, a sub area. We're going to talk a little bit about that later on. So now this is my sitemap, which I'm defining. I can either click on the add button at the top to add new area. I can have a new area, and then I can have a group, and then I can have a sub area under this. So let's start with the new area. So this one is customer management. If I start with a new manager, I can call that case management. And of course, if I want a case management, it makes sense to add a sub layer there, which is a group there, which is then going to be, for example, I can have one, I can call this a customer case management or customer cases. Yeah. And none of the customer cases, I can now have sub areas, right? So under customer cases, my sub areas can be my table, right? So I say it's an entity, and the entity is called case, right? I can save it, and then I can publish it. You always have to publish your application, test application. So if I come here, you can see that I have my test sales app. If I click on here, right? So remember how I got here? I clicked on that sales ob over here, and that took me to that particular application or list of application view. I think I'm in the wrong sales one, so I'm going to click on the second one, which I think is the correct one. Now you see I've got customer, account, and sales, but I've just right now added customer case management, customer cases, and cases. So that should actually be reflected. See my customer here, which is my area, is the same as the customer here. Okay, so what I'm expecting to see now is cases, customer cases, and other customer cases. So if I just refresh quite a bit, because sometimes it might take a while for this to load. Visible, just make sure that this is published. Okay, this is published. I do have actual case there, and I can actually just select the default dashboard as well if I wanted. We'll publish it. Just publishing the site. I can go in here and do a deep refresh rather. Another deep refresh. Okay. So you can see up here, down below here, the management, the area, right? So this is my customer management area that we defined earlier, and this is the case management. If I click on the case management, you can see I have my dashboards, as well as my active cases, right? So I've got my dashboard, I've got my active cases. So if I just get rid of that, actually, leave that and click save and publish, you can see that it's only showing the dashboard at the moment, but I've just refreshed that. So if I've just made that blank. So if I refresh this now, just refresh time. So reference to the case. Just going to move to customer management and then come back to my case management. Right, so showing my dashboard. Let me just have a look at what the name of the case is. Chain cases. Right, so let's select it as an entity, save that, and publish it. Let's come back to it, refresh it, refresh again, refresh again. This is not, it's not having it, is it? Right. Let's come and delete it, save, publish. Refresh that again, see whether the dashboard is still visible there. Okay, so we see that the dashboard has disappeared. Sometimes it's the way some of the stuff might just have some context. So I'm going to go for a sub area, and I'm going to make that an entity, and I'm going to make that a case. Okay, we have case, and I'm going to just click save, and publish. I go back to my cases and I refresh. Why not show immediately? You can see now I have a case there visible. So I can see my cases. Of course, I have a ton of views. This is the views that once you configure your views, you'll be able to see them all here. Of course, there's an out of the box views that comes with your case solution. Okay. Right. So let me just close this temporarily. Let's go back to our solutions. Right. So this is our sales application. You've seen the sitemap, you've seen the table, you've seen the columns in the relationship. Now you can see there's just a few relationship, right? But there is a relationship between the contact and the customer. So you have a contact. You can see that the account is a one-to-many relationship with the contact. In other words, a contact can have multiple accounts associated with it. Now, if we go back to our customer, and remember, this is a custom sales application. Now, we created this and we leverage some of the out-of-the-box sales table. If you come and you click on any of the solution, for example, any of the record for your account, there's a predefined, pre-configured data. You can see that you've got summary details. This is individual. These are tabs, right? There's the tabs, and you have sections inside these tabs. So you can see that you've got, Twitter feed, which contain Twitter ID. I've created this Twitter feed tab, right? And it's very simple. What we've seen here as part of the form, if you go inside your forms, we added an existing form. So you can add an existing form by going here and say, hey, what are the existing form that account has that I've not added? You can see quite a few of them, right? And so you can add one that you want. So we're going to go through some of these later on and try and talk a little bit about the parts that we can essentially leverage to the part that we want to edit and the part that are configurable. But the important thing to note is that we created a test sales app. So if you want to create, so remember you have to select your environment where your sales application is. You go back to solution. Typically, you go with this. You configure the sales application. But if you do not, if you want something that is unique for yourself, you create a new solution. And once you create a new solution, you either create a new publisher or you use an existing one. Think of a publisher as the owner of the one person to create the owner of that particular solution. Now I have gone ahead and I've created a new one called AnySkills Inc. But if you wanted to create one, you just click on here, you give it a unique name, you give it a prefix. This prefix is what's going to be used for every as a prefix for the name of all of your different components within your table. So for example, you see here, this is a test. If I close this is a Tails app. If I go into my tables, I created this payments table as a custom table. But you can see that the payments table, if you look into the property, go to the advanced, you can see that the payment table has a logical name and it starts with the ANYSK. That's the prefix of that publisher we just created, just saying I'm the owner of this table. I created this table, that sort of stuff. That's the rationale for that. Okay, so we've created this custom solution. If you want to create a custom solution again, you go and click new solution, you put information, select your publisher, give it a version, typically it'll be 1.0.0.0. And so you can, if you have a configuration page, you can put all there, which, user can view to understand a bit more about your that particular solution. Sort of like a landing page-ish. Okay, so let's go back to the PowerPoint. So you can, when creating a model-driven application site, like I said, it's very straightforward. You basically, what it does, of course, it gives you that navigation that we talked about, right? Allows you to move it between tables. The key concept there is the area, like we saw there, the group and the sub area, right? So the area, think of it as a part of your application, like the one we saw the customer management, we saw the case management, right? Those are the areas, and then you have the group, which kind of what you're going to, it just groups your tables that you're using, and you can give it a unique name. So if it's case management, if you're containing, you can put all the case management related items under the case management group. So that means that you can have your case, for example, your SLAs, perhaps, those kind of stuff. And if you could say activities, you can then, if you want to have an activity as a group, then you can have, your telephones, your SMS and all that kind of tables in that group, right? So sitemap essentially this. So you basically use a sitemap designer, which is the one we saw earlier on, and it essentially illustrates it illustrates the hierarchical structure of the area in the group, right? And the tables, which are essentially the areas as it were. So users must have appropriate permission to edit the sitemap. Again, administrator, a customizer, security role, or any other type of role that's been defined to enable user to do that. Default sitemaps are automatically created during app creation and can be edited. So if I were to come here, this is my if I come here and I go to my app, right? So I've got an app here, right? And if I come here and I create app and I say model-driven application, right? I say this is test app 2, right? I click create. Remember I can create it from a component from the solution. So if I wanted to create something from the solution, if one of my solution already have a, so if I select my sales app solution, for example, you see it already has a default sitemap, right? It already has one. So I can use that one, or I can basically just create a new solution, model driven application solution. I say this is test app 2, right? I click create. It's creating the application. And as it's creating the application, just watch. I pretty much have an empty navigation at the moment, but if I want to add a page, I'm adding a page. It's a database table, right? I'm adding the page, and I want it to be, let's say, the invoice. So we got that, right? Invoice table. I want the invoice table, and I want the invoice production, and I add those. See, automatically, it's creating and it's adding the navigation, the sitemap for that for me. Yes. So if I click on this and I save this tree, I have a new group here and it's invoices, right? So if I now rename this new group, so I can obviously change the invoice. I can edit the view, right? This, you can see there's still view here that I can edit right from me creating this application here, right? I've saved that already, publish it. Once that's published, I can basically now go back to my solution. Just wait for that to get published. Right, so I'm going back to my application. So if I refresh this now, see that we have a second application, right? So let me refresh this, see what we have. So you notice we have two applications and we have two sitemap. We only had one sitemap before, but now we have another sitemap, right? So create a sitemap so I can edit the sitemap. And when I go to this sitemap, I can see it's got my invoices and products, and I can come here and I can edit it. Let me click on there. Oops, you can click on this and you can go and I can say this is for invoicing, right? This is an invoicing group, okay? And here I can rename this into invoice management. Click save, I publish, okay? So while that's publishing, we come back here. So see, we've created a new application. I didn't need to create that sitemap itself. It automatically gets created for me. And this is what this point is saying here. The default sitemap can be edited via the Solution Explorer in Power Apps, right? You can, cloning components allows creating copies with the same detail except for the ID and title. So you can create components, you can clone components, you can clone forms, for example, you can clone, so if I wanted to, for example, if I have here, go back to my table, I got my accounts, right? I got to go to a form. I already have an existing form. I click on the form, right? And so I can come into the form here and I can edit the form. When I click to edit form, it takes me into the form area. I can save a copy. So if I click on save a copy, I'm saying accounts, copy, right? This is also, so this will now recreate the same thing, the same form visualization, I mean, the same font setup and everything else that I want, right? So I can duplicate my account and similar things for the rest of the other solution as well. There's some that you can duplicate. So for example, you would have to obviously create your sitemap the way we've done it, and or leverage the existing one as well. So you can duplicate that. You can also duplicate, you can copy and save your views, right? Same thing. So you have a sales view here. And we talked about views is the way to visualize your data, and you can add filtering. We said you can add filters, for example, right? Where you can say, oh, add a filter, add a row. If the uh, let's say, is it revenue? Do we have revenue here? Perhaps you want to you want to view the records that were created in the last year, right? Click OK. That would then filter it for you, and then you can now say, I want you to sort by name, or the rating, or any of the columns. If you want to add more columns, you add more columns, account number, and so on and so forth. You're done. When you're finished, you can save. You can save and publish. Always publish your customization. Yeah. Okay, so let's continue with our presentation. Just bear with me a second there. Fantastic. So now we've already looked at adding, editing, removing. Obviously, you can remove your components. You can remove your sitemap if you don't like it. But sometimes when it's already attached to a solution, you find out that you have to go back and untie that relationship, especially. So if we look at your sitemap, which is here, you can come and delete it, right? So you can remove it from the solution, or you can delete it from the environment. If you remove from the solution, it will still be available to be important to another solution. But if you delete it from the environment, it's gone forever. So if I attempt to delete this now, so it tells me failed to delete object. Dependency exists. So if you come here and you look at the advanced setting and you show dependency, it will tell you that it's dependent on the model-driven application. This one here. It's telling you, sorry, you cannot delete it because it's dependent on the app here. Okay. So if I go to my app, you can see that it's telling me that I've got that there, right? And that's my navigation. Okay. Now, if you go to this setting, you could come to navigation. You can see that there are some other configuration here. You can show pin recent and all that stuff, and you can enable areas, right? Some more stuff, some features and settings, and inherently from the environment, you can set all of that stuff here. So for example, enable Power BI, quick report visualization on the table. You have to do all of this configuration. And also here you have the opportunity to play around with the welcome page that I said earlier on. Yeah, fantastic. Well, of course, you have your invoicing as well here. And if you come here and you remove from the page, you basically now you do not necessarily. So you have these other ones which are other pages. If we were to save this, for example, and go back and select your case management. What was that? Case management. So invoice and no, I think it's the new application. Yes, I did publish that. Right. So if I go back to my application. So I go back to my dashboard, view my dependencies, see that it's still there, and it shows you the tables that is there. Yeah, so realistically, the best way you can do that is to is to really remove it, remove the application, that disengage the application from the sitemap, right? So, and this is the navigation as well. So if we go to this, we've already been here. We looked at the advanced settings, which shows you that. Also got your features where you can select certain visualization, and you can also enable. And this is just upcoming preview features that you can enable as well. Right, so if I remove from app and also remove from app, right? Typically, this is where you can see all the stuff. You can actually, configure some other stuff from here as well in your app designer. If you have any automation, business process flow creation, you can do that here as well. So you can see that we already have existing sales processes, right? Sales process, lead to opportunity processes that we saw earlier on in the front end. You could create new new business process flows. I'm going to save that again, and I am going to save, play that, publish. We're going to publish a sitemap without a sub area. Okay. So it looks like we have to obviously delete the sitemap. But if you switch to the classic mode, right? So it's telling you to let's switch to classic mode. Oops, wrong one. So Microsoft is still fully trying to develop some of the stuff. So it does want me to publish, but it's not allowing me to publish. So I would add add another page and just put a random, just put counts there as well. Back to my pages, I now have an area. I can switch back to the classic page, save and continue. I want to show you how the classic page, excuse me. I think something is blocking it, so allow. Let's try that again. Right here, switch to classic page. And that's taking us to the sitemap here. We can actually change the sitemap here to whatever we want. And that's the sitemap designer. So back to switching to classic mode. And you can come here. So you need to at least have a sitemap before you're able in your app designer before you're able to save it. That's just a requirement. Yes? Okay. So moving on, we talked about sitemap. You can design your sitemap, you can create dashboards. And I did mention earlier on that you can create business process flow. We saw how we can do that. We saw the existing business process flow, which we're going to talk a little bit about later on in other sessions. And then entity view, we looked at the table, we looked at the table assets, which on the right hand side, we looked at the form, views, chat, and business processes, right? And important to mention that you can obviously create from the classic app designer. When you switch to the classic app designer, you can create one by click on you can create your dashboard by clicking on here. Now, I did mention earlier on that you have the global dashboard as well as the local dashboards, right? So if you look at this previous slide where we talked about, you have your global dashboard as well as your individual dashboard. The global one is not entity specific. If you create a dashboard within a within a local within a table, then it can only essentially use all of the different components within that table. Yeah. So here is a table. Here's accounts. We don't have it. Well, there is an existing dashboard because if I click on here, I would be able to see dashboards. We only have just the one now. But if I want to create a brand new one, say I want to create a 3-column dashboard, it opens one for me. And remember, this is within the context of the account. You see that it's already filtered the accounts to it's filtered the entity to account, so I cannot even change that. If I come here and I want to select any views, it's restricted to accounts, right? Accounts by industry, so I couldn't do anything. But if I just leave here, click on here, and I also have a dashboard on the top here, which we'll talk about the different type of dashboard later on, the interactive one and the classic one. So if I this is the dashboard. If I click on this, you can see that this is the global dashboard. If I want to, it doesn't have any restrictions for any particular table. I can edit the components and show tabs for dashboards. And I can pretty much, if I want to delete this, for example, now I can go and I can come and try and add components to it. Yeah, I can add you can add an iframe, you can add a web resource if you like, and you can essentially edit as much. You can edit the component. Like I said, you can lock particular sections and so on and so forth. You've got flexibility to also increase the width as well. Yeah. They can play around with the property, finding the names and stuff like that. Right. Okay. So you've seen the dashboard. This is if you create a dashboard, you see that you can have a Power BI embedded one. We're going to talk about that later as well. But if you click on the one, you can begin to then select, right, what kind of components you want to have there as well. Yeah. So how to create a brand new dashboard. But of course, we can also use an existing one from the sales applications because where we are now is a custom sales custom test application. So I come here and I say, can you give me an existing? Oh, look at that. So the global one has the regular classic dashboard, but as well as the interactive dashboard. So if we click on the interactive dashboard, say we want the interactive dashboard, publish. And since we have the dashboard, which is an interactive dashboard, right? So that's publishing that, publish that. If we go back to our application and go to select our test sales app application, and this is obviously our pages. Let's go to our classic mode to see our app designer. You see that it's automatically selected all of the dashboard for me here, including the interactive one. So if I went to go into my sales application, I come here and I choose my test sales application, loads, and I come to my accounts, and I can basically open dashboards in my accounts, and I can see my dashboards. So what we're looking at just now, test sales application, yeah. So this is specific to accounts now. Remember, this is specific to account, and this is specific to contacts. Now, if I go to my app, if I go to my navigation, right? To my navigation, and so it's in. So if I go back out, and this is my sitemap. right? Sales application, I can come and say I want to actually under my sales management, I want to add something else, and I want to add. Oh no, I don't want to add any new area, so let's get rid of that. I just in my sales application, in my customer management, I want to add a sub area, and I want that sub area to be a dashboard. Okay, and I click save. So it's editing it, saving it, and I come back to my contact and refresh this. Refresh, refresh, on refresh. To the case management, come back to case. So just make sure that that actually you can just rename that to be sales dashboard. Case associated with a dashboard. So do that again. Click and save, and then publish it. Now, if I refresh that as many times as possible, now we have a sales dashboard. Okay, so I can come in here. You can see I'm seeing all my different dashboard now. I can see my knowledge manager, which is an interactive dashboard, which obviously contains no data. But if I say last quarter, last week, this week, yesterday. All right, looks like we haven't got much data here to play around with. But if I just go for, you can see that the logo is even different. It's an interactive dashboard, and you have some other stuff here. We haven't got much data to play around, guys. Oh, something here. Hey, all right, activities. So a lot of conversation going on. So let's continue the chat. We already passed through this. We said, okay, so app designer and sitemap designer. So we've already gone through this, right? So many users find that using an external keyboard, right? So important to realize that, Microsoft gives you the flexibility to actually use shortcuts, shortcut keys. So for example, if you want to save command, if you want to save and close, if you want to validate your, Control S to save records and stuff, validate to publish, you can use Control Alt P and it will automatically publish for you, right? So for example, I go back to my app designer and I say Control Alt P, and it's already published essentially. So if I perhaps change this to dashboards, right? Click on save, Control Alt P, you can see that it starts to publish for me without me actually clicking that. So there are shortcuts that you can actually leverage during whilst using your designer. Okay, so it's worth knowing those as well, so you can become a pro. Okay, so and of course for users with mobility or vision disability, keyboard shortcut can obviously be helpful. Right, we've already talked about tables and forms, or we've actually looked at tables and forms, but we haven't we've delved into it. We've seen how to create one, how to edit one, how to add columns to tables, how to filter your tables, and how to order them, right? We are going to just have a general conversation about them, which are forms are essential for users to interact with data in Dynamics 365, sales, or all the other business applications. The application comes with pre-configured forms. So Dynamics 365 Sales comes with pre-configured forms. Users can also create their own forms, which I can let's just quickly go into that. So we looked at some of the forms. When I added a table, the account table, for example, or let's even go to the contact table, right? The contact table, if you click on the forms, I'm not sure if I added any form there, but that's because I'm creating a custom table. Now I can go to the add existing, I can see the ton of pre-configured forms already existing, right? Contact form, you have the main form, the quick view form, the quick create form, and so on and so forth. And we're going to talk about those later on. So if I were to say I want to add I want to add the main form here as out of the box form that comes with it. I've just added an out of the box form into my custom test sales application. Of course, I can go into the form and I can start to play around and edit it as I want. Yeah. So users can create their own custom forms from scratch. And of course, editing existing forms and views will automatically reflect Microsoft changes. So that means if you are using the out of the box functionality or the existing forms, right? So those will be also updated if Microsoft updates them. It doesn't mean that you're going to lose your changes or some of the customization. It just means that something that is key to Microsoft's implementation that you cannot manage, you cannot configure, will be updated or updated by Microsoft, right? Again, remember that for custom forms, you are responsible for updating them, and after each application release. And very important to note that customization, the best practice is that you'll keep remove unnecessary columns from the form, and to reduce clutter, and make sure that you leverage the filter capability within your views, so that you get the obviously depending on the business requirement, right? Focused views can improve user efficiency, so make sure that if you're using your views, put all the right amount of data that you need to put in there. Remember that there are there are system views and there are personal views, right? Now, system views, think of system views that, because we have several views in Dynamics 365, right? You've got the personal view, which is owned by a user. You've got the system view, which is special views, and the system views are typically the ones that come as part of the out of the box, right? Or the ones that you created as part of your table. And then of course you have your public view. So if we go to the contact, go back to our table, let's go to the contact table. We click our views, we see we haven't got any views here, but if we click on existing one, we can actually create a new one. But let's go for the existing one, right? Go for the existing one. You see that there are existing one that has, you can see the public view and they're managed, means you can't really do much with those. If you click on that and you add those, you can then add them. You have quick view, and then you have your associated view. The associated view are the ones you will be displayed in a subgrid, right? And if I say subgrid, that might not make much sense to you. But if you go to an account, click a specific account, and we can now look at if I come here, and we can see there's a primary contact, but you can also have list of opportunities as related to this account. This is a subgrid. The subgrid shows it can be configured with the view which you've created of related tables. Okay, so if we go into accounts, cancel this, go into accounts, you see that account has its if you go into the account form, and this is the main one, you go into it, you see that it has, let's wait for it to load, subgrid. Going through. Right, so related opportunities. This is essentially a subgrid. You can see here as a subgrid, has its name and stuff, but you see the subgrid is using a view, right? And you can, and this is the view recent opportunity views, right? And you can even edit the views, well, edit the views directly by clicking there if you want, and it will take you to the view, and you can go ahead and edit that as you wish. Um, right, so seeing how you can now those are this will, you know, this will essentially be your views and your public views. So if you think of your public views, you know, are stuff that you could actually, you know, use in your subgrid. You can use that in your dashboards. The personal views are the ones that are created by individuals. So how do you create personal views? You basically go into your settings, you go for advanced settings, right? Advanced settings, and then you go for your lookup, your sorry, advanced find, the old way of doing that. And if I want to create my personal view, I'll just go save for accounts, for example. This is a new. So these are system views. You can see these are all the system views, including the ones I've created as tests. These are all part of the system views. But I can come here and I say, hey, I want to save this account. I want a different, I want to edit the column, right? I'm advanced fine. I want to add more tables, more whatnot. This just only contain a few. I want to add more columns, dress one, all this interesting stuff. And that has now had more stuff. I click OK. I just take the results. You can see that that gives me a lot more based on the additional fields I've entered. What if I want to just save this record? I want to save this view for myself, so I can come here and say save or save as. I say this is my test personal view. Now, if I create this personal view, nobody else can see it apart from me. Nobody else in the organization can see this apart from me. I created it, right? So if I click on go on my save view, you can see I've got one. I've got one here, right? However, I can share my view with other people. I can add, you know, add a user as a team, and I can give them access to my view, and I can remove the access as I want. Yeah, it's important to notice that, to note that. So that's how you will typically create your personal view. And you can also, when you create your personal view, of course, if I now go, where's my account, manage and share views. Sorry, I did save that, didn't I? So if I just click open up the advanced find again, click on account, personal view should be visible for me. Test personal. Yeah, I'll give you the results now. If I go back to my sat application, so my site map, which is here, and I click to edit my site map. Sorry, my bad. I mean to go to my application, edit my application, a new tab. And I switch to my classic. Come on, load. I switch my classic view, classic, and I go. This is my accounts, right? It's got views. So you can see here, I've only got two selected, even though I've created my test. What do I call it now? So you can see it's got the public one, which shows all the public ones that's available. Right, it's got the advanced find view, and it's got the associated one as well. And if you want to see more views, you basically select this to see more views, right? Select more views, you click on save, go back to your application, you refresh this, you will see more views here. Okay, so if I refresh this, I should be able to see additional views that I've just selected in my app. So you can see that I have more views. Actually, no, let's just refresh that again. Is it being published? Publish. So I just saved that, didn't publish it. So always remember to publish, guys. Right, so first of all, notice I'm already seeing my personal view, right? You can see test personal, it's got that. So if I click on there, it tells you, it takes me to my personal, and you see it's giving me more addresses. It's only me that will be able to see this, right? But if I share it with somebody else, like I showed you earlier on, then you'll be able to see it as well. So if I refresh this, I should have more views. And when I toggle down that view selection, drop down. See, now I have more views. I see all accounts active views. So remember, if you're not seeing stuff, it's probably because it's not been selected in the app designer. Yes? Okay. Right. So if we go back to our right, so probably I did mention that there we have important, personal, system, which is special views for the system tables, and of course the public view with the general accessibility. The system tables as native to the system, right? And there's other views that you would create that are public to everyone, that you create in your customization will typically be public to everyone. So these are customizable. They can be used in subgrids. They can be used in dashboards and so on and so forth, as well as chats. Yes. So it's important that you note that. Okay. Of course, Microsoft recommends that you use your Power Apps grid control preview for the best experience, right? And more importantly, if you want to learn some more about this, just make sure you go to the Microsoft documentation and read a bit more. Right. We already talked about table, and we've seen how tables are created, but just to go over real quick, model-driven applications, of course, are built, and table are the fundamental structure that makes it work, right? Use table, of course, for modeling your data, right? And your model-driven application only works if you have a table and a data model, right? Now, the second point here says this manifests itself to app users through views. So the tables that you have, what you're using to configure your data points, eventually is then those data rows, those data you've collected are then being shown to the user, to the end user via your views and your forms, right? Now, tables are a method of storing data in columns. So you have your columns in your data within your Dataverse. And obviously tables are previously called entities, but you still see some of the Microsoft documentation still refers to it as entities. Tables in the context of a model-driven application, such as the Dynamics 365 sales apps, only exist within a Dataverse database. So it's very important. It only exists within the Dataverse database, right? We already explained what a Dataverse database is, but if you don't know what it is, basically it is a service that Microsoft has for managing data, access to data, and also provides you with other services to enable you to interact with data and applications and stuff. Yeah, and stores your data, stores your applications, your solutions, and the likes. So a single row within the table is known as a record, right? So for example, single customer or customer will have, for example, a name, a telephone number, credit limit, that sort of stuff that would define an individual record, right? Every model-driven application will contain at least one table. It's important to remember that, right? You need one table for a model-driven application to essentially be considered to be valid, right? Every model, yeah, I think I've said that already. Tables have views, forms, business rules. With them, we've already looked at that. Business rules. Table also have chats as well as dashboards. You've seen that already. So if I just go back there, go back to tables, you can see here, account has columns, relationship keys, forms, views, chats, dashboard, business rules, commands, messages. We're seeing how to configure those as well. So I'm going to move on. Right. Okay. So we also talked about forms, right? I did allude to the different types of forms that we have. We have your main form, which are primarily used for creating, viewing, and editing records with detailed data. It's very important. With data, you can put as many fields as you want, obviously without causing the form to be overloaded and causing the loading of the form to be slow. But you can, put fields in your form. Quick create form is basically for collecting. If you want to collect just few records, very essential records, essential data about a particular record, you'll create a quick create form to do that. And of course, the quick view form is a read-only view of the fields you've already created, and essentially display a summarized information. Right? The card form is essentially designed to display a single record as a compact and visually appealing card, visually appealing card, focused on key information. For example, if you have a contact and you want a card form that displays all of the essential information about a person, a contact, for example, their name, their full name, the email address, the telephone number, that kind of forms like a card-ish. Just think about that concept of a card, complimentary card. That's how you should think about it. And you only also, it's basically a one column form, and same thing with your quick create form. There's also one column form. We're going to see a little bit later on some of the major differences there. The form designer is where we've been, and basically if you go into your form, you go into your click on the form, you are now inside the form designer, where you can then drag and drop your fields into your form. You can create a new column. You can add new. So if you come here into the component, you can see that you can actually add a tab. You can add a subgrid, like we saw with the opportunities here. So if I can add my own new subgrid, I can add columns. I can add inputs. I can even have more components, right? And I can have controls here as well, that are out of the box controls, or the ones that you essentially create. Yeah, fantastic. Remember business rules as well in your form. You can configure your business rules as well. So if you want to create business rules, we're gonna, you can configure new business rule and say, well, if this person has a parent account field, then display parent account address or something like that. And also you can create, we did talk about creating your card and your card form. Just go back to presentation. Designed to display a single record as compact and visually appealing card, focusing on key information. All right. So we talked about the main form. You can create, this is obviously used in a model-driven application for tables as well. This forms provide the main user interface for viewing and interacting with table data. So that's how your main form looks like. It contains many information, has tabs and so on and so forth. Your quick create form, you can see there, it just clicks on there and it shows on the right side, which you can see just the essential fields, right? One column, right? It's just one straight column, and you can see it provides the basic information you need to create a record, right? Minimum fields. Quick view, again, you can see that it enables you to have a couple tabs, but still the same one column, right? And you know, you can reference lookups and all that kind of stuff in there as well. Now, this is your card form. You can see this is an account, and the CAN account essentially there presents information in a compact format that is suitable for mobile devices. You see it there. It contains the account number and the telephone number, right? So that's your account card form. Now let's have a comparison between the different card and when you normally use it. So, for example, main form, it's a primary form for your record. You know, that's what you use generally speaking. If you fill in all of the information, as many information as you need to pull in the form, that's what you're going to be using, right? You can create one for a user, and so it's important to note that if you go to the form settings, you can actually enable security role for your forms and specify which of the salesperson is this just this for sales manager or this is for the salesperson. So that if you want the forms, if you want certain fields to not be to be read only and only you want certain salesperson to only see certain fields, then you want to create the security role and a form and assign the security role for the manager, so the manager will be able to use the specific form. And if you want to create different forms for different user group, yeah, so you can configure that, and you can actually also configure the order in which your form is displayed. So if you have access or you have security role for all the different forms, you can determine which one is displayed first, whether it's the account one or the interactive order, whatever all the ones you've created. Right. So go back to the slide. So again, main form, primary record, right? Quick create form for quick creation of record, essential fields. Quick view form is display related data within main form, right? Quick view form, and card display summarized information in grid-like fashion, right? In terms of layout, it's multi-column layout and complete for comprehensive information. Quick create single column layout, quick view single column layout, card form single column layout for essential information, right? Interact in terms of interactivity, full record interaction, and it's customizable. In terms of quick create form, limited interaction, focus on creation, limited interaction, read only, right? Quick view and interaction like opening full record. So that's what you could do. So if you if you have a contact, a card form for the contact in for example your account record, then you can essentially click on that and it would take you to the main record. Let's just see whether we have one. So this is the contacts. Click on one. So over here, you can see you got the primary contact, right? And this is the primary contact, and you have the primary contact. This is a card form here, right? So you can see that the record is there, and they have a phone number, as well as the email, and that's coming from the contact. You see, that's the primary contact, Kevin Art. So you see, there's an email and a business. Now, if we go to let's just go to come out of here, discard, go to our table, go to the contact, and go to the form. You see, we haven't got that, but if I come and I click an existing one, just to see the one that we have, you see we have a couple of cards forms already here. Okay, so if I just click on this one, which seems to be the default one, and I add it. Okay, I can go into that card form and see what's actually inside of it. So this is a bigger card forms, but contains the last name, address, and all that stuff and filter. So if I add another one, let's see, card. We just add this first. Any other card form that we have? So this is a quick view. So so this is the form that creates the contact card. So if I click on that, view, so that has some basic stuff and also contains your subgrade as well. So I'm not able to figure out the exact, but it's definitely using a quick. So this is the account records. If we go to oh, this is the accounts. This is it. Oh, solution, test sales application, accounts. Where are you? Account columns, views, forms rather, listing. And card. I go to my contact. Actually, I know. Go to my sales trial. Go to my table account and go to my forms. And it's not showing me my form, so I would go back to my account, go to my sales, go to the account, go to my main account. Where's my main account? Right here. Go to the form, click on the main form. Just wait for that to load as well. And then I should have my primary contact here. You can see here is using a quick view, and that's coming from the label is the primary contact, and it's coming from the quick view form, which is the contact form, right? So that's the name of the form. We know it's a quick view form. If we go back to our solution, and we go back to our contact, then our form should have a quick view form. So if we click on edit one, and let me try and see if I can have say it's a primary. What was that name? Was it contact, right? There was a contact quick view form. It might be this one. Yeah, so let's add the facts. And if I go to the contact quick view form and open it, I'm expecting to see, do I have? Two record. Open. Okay, it has the first name, last name, email, number. What do we have here? Email, business. So certainly missing. It's got the email and it's got the business. Business is not here, so this is not the right one. So I'll try one more time. If I just select Z, quick view form, we've got quite a few of those. Live persona, contact, I think this is the one. This must be the one. Yeah? Yeah, this must be the one. All right, so let's look into that. So you just see the two fields. Yeah, email and business. And that's the look at that. That's a business number. So fantastic. So that's the one. That's the one that's being displayed here, right? So it's basically go into the form, the account. This is the contact form, but you would typically go to the account form and say, where's my account table? Form. Go into the form, and if you want to leverage anything. So you can basically come here and you can decide, okay, I want to, this is a form, I want to include a quick view over here, right? And then you can decide, which view do you want to, so if I click on, a contact, for example, I will be able to, so obviously select quite a few already there, hence why I'm not able to select, right? But you got quite a few. So the primary contact, for example, and I think I've just selected that one. And then you can select the type of view that you want to be visible. Yeah. Right. Let's move on. So that's just majorly, in terms of navigation, in terms of the layout, in terms of the interactivity. That's what you want to work out. You can go over the PowerPoint later on. Right, we already talked about views, right? Modern driven apps obviously use the views to display the records. A view defines the columns. We already saw the columns. We can add columns. We know that you have the personal views, the system defined views, as well as the public view, right? The public view owned by individuals and can be customized and they can be shared. But if you've not shared your views, then no one else will see it apart from yourself. And we've seen how to create by going to the advanced section, go to the advanced settings and then go into select the advanced find, and then you can create it there and save it, and it will become visible for you in your other model driven application. Of course, if you want to add more views, you have to go into your app designer and then begin to add them as part of the existing views, right? So users can select views from a drop down, like we've seen, and you saw how I added new additional columns or already having existing columns, and you can sort them and you can filter the results of what you will be displayed in views. We said can be used in your subgrid. Views can be used in your chat, in your dashboards, and things like that, right? System views are serve specific purposes and cannot be deleted. Remember that. System views cannot be deleted. Public views that you've created can be deleted. Yeah. And we've looked at the view editor and how that can be essentially leveraged, right? Fantastic. Okay, so comparison of views as well. Default views provide for systems, so limited in terms of customization, limited in terms of filtering, and so on. Personal views, again, created and saved by individual, like you saw me did, customizable by user for personal use. It's private to the user in terms of the scope, right? So it's private to the user who creates them, but you can share them, right? That's the key element here. Quick find views are essentially available for quick search across entities, right? And also limited to customization search. Associated views are associated with specific records. The one when you click on the subgrid, you typically be including the associated views. Right. So that brings us to the end. and there are some questions that we can go through. I'll just brush through them really quickly. Which form type is model-driven app? Or which form type in model-driven apps provides a compact one-column layout to display essential information quickly? To display, that's the important thing to important, and it's talking about provide a compact one-column layout to display. Now, the most appropriate answer there, of course, is C. The form type, is C because the quick view form provides you with a, with a one column, one column compact layout, right? You can say the card form also is one packed is also a one column form, but when we talk about displaying essential information, it's essentially alluding to display more than just your, maybe email forms and all that kind of stuff. It's talking about you adding more details, you can include subgrid, right? You can include subgrid and informations and stuff and additional stuff that you cannot do within your card form. Yeah. Question number 2, true or false? When Microsoft updates Dynamics 365 sales, custom forms created by users will automatically reflect those changes. The answer is depends, right? So if you have Dynamics 365, if you create custom forms and you include custom, out of the box fields in that custom forms, then those particular fields will reflect changes. But the form, if you have a custom form, the form itself will not reflect changes. So in this case, when Microsoft updates Dynamics 365, custom forms will not be updated. So you have to go and update them yourself. Yeah, so that's what you need to do. Question 3, what privileges is required for users to create personal views in a model-driven application? So if you want to create, personal views, you basically just need to have the organization level to read records for the saved view table. So what does that mean? It means that if you go to your security role and go to security, so this is B. Let's go into the so this is the admin platform. This is the admin portal. You go to your specific environment. This is me. If I click on there, I can click manage security role. And I can see the roles that I've been assigned. So I've got system administrator role and I have the basic user role. Now I can go to my settings and wait for it to load. See if it's in here. And I can go to security roles on the users and I can see all the security roles. So if I go to the system administrator one, for example, which I'm currently assigned, I can see it. Administrator, I click on it. You can see that I have, if I search, before this is assignable, if I search for saved, you see there I've got saved view, right? And I've got access to, you see I've got read access on the user level, so I can create saved view for myself. This is what I need to have access, and I can actually share this as well as assign. I need to add this role for me to be able to create what I need to be able to have this role for me to be able to create a personal view for myself. Right? So essentially, I need a user level access to actions for saved view. So this is saved view. But if I want to create the view, so 1 second. if I wanted to, yes. So basically, you can see the custom table there, which is the important table to reference here is this one here, right? Now, the customization, you can see view here, also of the type. This is for user query. This is a saved query. This is the one also you need to have access to. And I need what? Organization. I need organization level. So the answer to that question is organization level read access to the record of saved view table. Right? Right. Let's go to the fourth question. What privilege is required for users to create personal views in model-driven application? It's pretty much the same answer, so I'm going to move on to the next one. What is the purpose of the sitemap in model-driven application? What do you think the answer is? Means what's the answer? The answer is B, because it's to configure the navigation and user interface, right? So you got it right if you got that answer correct. How can you add a new area to the sitemap in a model-driven app? How do you this? You know, we saw previously how to do it. You can click and click on the plus button, and that will present you an opportunity to create the area, correct? And under the area, you have your group and stuff. But guess what? You can also drag the area tile from the component. So let's have a look at it real quick. Navigation, form, let's come back out, go to the sitemap. Sitemap, we've got two of them. Go to the sales one that we did. You can see here, I can click on here and I can click an area. But also, guess what? I can also drag an area. Can I do that? Can I drag an area? Yes, I can. So new area, right? So I can do that both. So this is a multi-choice question. So the answer would be A and B. Right click on the canvas and choose area. Can we do that? Right click on the canvas? Nope, we cannot. Can we double click on the canvas to create an area? Oh, certainly cannot. So A and B is your answer. Question number 7, the model-driven app. What is the purpose of the quick view form? Guess what? 1, 2. Yeah, if you chose B, then you're right. It's to display a summarized view of related record. Summarized view, and a quick view is read only, right? So read only. Yes. Question number 7. What's the purpose of a quick create form? Quick create form is, remember, it's to collect what? Essential, right? Provide a compact form for quick data entry. Essential data, right? So the answer would be what? A. Question number 9. Which form type is model-driven apps provided? With form type in the model-driven app provides a compact one-column layout to display essential information. We already talked about this, and we said that the answer was the quick view form. But again, remember, I said as well that the quick card form is also a one-column layout. So typically, if you see both of them like this, it's usually going to be a multiple choice options, and you'll have to select D and C. Now, question 10, which type of column allows you to store large binary data, such as images, videos, or documents in a database? The obvious one is the blob storage. Now, we didn't talk about the different type of data, but I think that I'll go into that in a bit. Now, which of the following is not an example of Dataverse column? Single line text, whole number, date and time, email. So if we go to the form, right? So we go into the form. Let's say we have a content form. I want to add, sorry, if we go to the contact column, and let's say we want to add let's say a Facebook, or no, an Instagram handle, right? Maybe the company has an Instagram handle, right? Guess what? Look at the data type. It could be a text, an even though it's a text, it can also have different formats. It can be a plain text, it could be a text area, which is multiple line of text, it could be a rich text, where you can actually add formats and all that kind of stuff. It could be an email, it could be phone number, right? It can be a number, which can be a whole number, decimal. It can be a date and time, which could be either date and time only or date only. You have lookup, you have choice, which is option, either yes or no, or you have custom options that you can create yourself. You have currency, you have auto number, and you have file. And this is where we talk about file and images. And question 9 says, now, which of the following is not? Certainly, date and time, we saw date and time, didn't we? Right, which is there up here, right? What about single line of text? This is text, right? Whole number, yes. But can you see email address? I don't think so. However, of course, the text is part of an email. However, it is not of the general type. It's only its format, right? So let's not get confused with that. Okay. So yes, there is data line of text. Yes. Even though we can have multiple formats, but it's part of the data type. It's a whole number. It's part of it. The date and time is part of it, but email is not. The email is this format of is a type of format of the single line of text. So what's the answer? The answer is D. Right, and this is time for questions. If there are questions, we can answer that afterwards. But I'm going to just stop the recording now. So thank you guys for participating in the second session. I look forward to seeing you in the third session. So